Yep. In fact, where's my bottle opener?
Yeah, where's your drink?
I've got it in
I've
my.
actually I finished mine, so I gotta top up here.
I've got my drink in my hand. I've actually just been waiting to open it until you got on this call. Otherwise,
You've been waiting.
yeah, because I mean,
You don't drink before you talk
no,
before
I
me.
mean, otherwise I'd be sauced before the call even got started. So,
We need to fix that.
mm-mm. No, I'm good. I'm good now. What are you having?
I am having Smooch's dad's racist white IPA.
What?
I'm having Smooch's dad's racist white IPA.
That's awesome.
And no, I didn't pick it. This is literally what the neighbor turned up with for me.
This is going to be the introduction of our podcast, right there.
Yep.
Just that.
Should that be the name of it, or should it still be what the is KartPulse anyway?
What the fuck is Karters anyway? Hi, my name is Davin Sturdivant, and this is episode 2 of the KartPulse podcast. We're calling this round Drinks with Karters because we had the idea that we would get together with a couple of drinks and sit down and talk about kart racing. This time it's me and James McMahon, the other founder of KartPulse, just sitting down and talking about why we started KartPulse and some of our ideas about the sport and just some general BS. James is on Skype and I'm over my headset, so the audio quality may vary. James is having an IPA that he got from his neighbors, and I'm having a Sprite's ale to drink. So this is just a laid-back discussion about talking about karting. So I'm not going to really have a long intro, but let's just jump into it. Well, I mean, I guess we should probably tell people why we started working on Kart Pulse in the first place.
You think that's important?
I think that's important.
Why did we start?
Well, you got a hold of me, so
Well, you did the video, right?
yeah. Okay, so
So
yes.
we should link that up, the video.
Okay, we'll throw that in there. And that was a college project that a friend of mine, Chris Scragg, asked me to help him with for school. And like, I guess from my perspective, like when I started karting, I just got a bunch of knowledge from a a eclectic group of people, but it was just sort of fortune that I happened to get good information most of the time. It
Right.
wasn't, there was no website I could go to. There was no, forum that really had any, you're new. These are the things you have to read, or here are the tools you need, or, I just happened to know Aaron Stanford, and he was like, here's some tools. This is what I have. So,
Right.
it was somewhat frustrating, I think, once I kind of got into it, like started to get into it, because now you're trying to figure your way around of like, what am I doing? And you don't have anyone to talk to. You're just kind of lost. And everybody who seems to know what they're doing are in classes and categories way above yours, so you can't really, they're not super accessible. And so I thought that Cart Pulse was an interesting idea because it, really kind of took advantage of the grassroots movement of, carters. Like there's a lot of knowledge out there from a lot of people who know their way around carts. And, just being able to kind of get it organized in a way that like new people could actually have fun karting. It's funny too because I think you and I would both agree that we don't we don't really like agree with the general stepping stone rhetoric that we see a lot with karting. It's like its only purpose is to get people into F1 because 99% of people in motorsport in general are not going to be doing that. And so it just seems like that mindset, although it has a purpose in some places, can highly disregard just the general fun that the sport of karting is.
Yeah,
And
totally.
we've had conversations in the last couple of weeks, even like when we went to PRI and a couple of the trips we've been on, where basically people say the 1% get press and the 99% kind of get a little ignored, and so they don't have as much fun as they could because they don't really feel like they're being included in where the sport is going. Insert series here, insert class here, insert, price point here. And so with
Right.
kart poles, we really, really focus on having fun and enjoying karting. And it doesn't matter if you want to be the best driver or build a funky looking go kart or whatnot. It's about going and having fun and being able to get the information you need to have the most fun. And we don't really care if you're Lewis Hamilton or if you are driving around in a L206 for 20 years. It's more that you're just having fun karting.
Yeah, it's basically it. And yeah, like you say, I mean the stepping stone model, it has a place in karting and it's part of the ecosystem. But again, putting my objective hat on when I started this project 3.5 years ago, in terms of growing the sport, it's more of a shiny object,
Yep.
and I'd counter that it's probably done more harm than good in some ways,
Hmm.
mostly because of the emphasis that's been placed on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just completely wipes out most recognition of the fact that you should just kart race because it's freaking good fun.
I agree. I agree.
Not because it's whatever reason you want to use to justify the reason that you go kart racing, which is usually something to do with F1 racers used to race karts, and or F1 racers still race karts to take to stay sharp. And yeah, they do. But most of us just kart race because, I mean, above anything else, it's damn good fun.
Yeah, agreed.
And whether you're like spending, I don't know, say 100 grand a year, if that's what you're into and you're having fun, good for you. But definitely our emphasis is to kind of shift away from that, the stepping stone model. And that's not in a way to vilify it. It's just we feel,
Mm-mm,
we
mm-mm.
want to emphasize the other side of the sport that
Yeah.
we connect with more. I came into kart racing through the stepping stone thing, and which is kind of ironic that I've kind of come full circle. But when I think back over like 20, whatever it is, 22 years I've been around car races, my closest friendships, my relationships, probably 90% of the things I've learned about life and relationships and everything else all came from through kart racing.
Hmm.
And I mean, that's incredibly powerful. And I think, not to get too kind of, how do you want to put it, too, too soppy about it or whatever. But that is an element of kart racing that is like intrinsically human. Whereas if we talk about karts being super badass and whatever, which they are, but that doesn't get to the part that's intrinsically human, where we talk about the community and the relationships and the core of the DNA of what makes any activity sticky, where you want to keep coming back to do it. So, and when we talk about stepping stone, then that immediately means, to me at least, if you don't win, you suck, or you're at least disregarded, right? So if you think of any competition or any business, if you look at karting as a business and you say you want to grow it, and excuse me, all you want to talk about, or mostly what you want to talk about, are the winners, and you want to disregard 60% of your user base or your customer base, that doesn't sound like a good strategy to me. So, KartPulse is about that 60%.
So kind of to jump on that a little bit, I've always found myself a little bewildered with the stepping stone model from the outside because it seems like you see like the intention is to drive people out of the sport, which I find to be hilarious, like just a little confusing. It's the go and win all the races so you can jump into car X, right? So you use
Right,
karting for its means and then get out. And I found like that does the sport a huge disservice, like you say, from the human element, because there are a bunch of really great people who sometimes price themselves out of motorsport because, their objective is a shiny object with no real discernible goal. And not to say that that ambition isn't valid or anything. It's just there's way more to life than the latter.
right,
And there's way more there are people who have way more valuable skills and abilities that sometimes get a little bit um, they I don't want to say devalued, but it gets reduced because they put you on the ladder because you're Carters, you're at the bottom, and therefore you're just not as good. And I've never agreed with that principle. And
yeah.
and
Pretty
I think
much
that
all of the data kind of contradicts that,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, totally agree. Totally agree. Well, I mean, okay, so here's my thing, and like I'll probably edit this down so it doesn't sound so ranty, but it'll give me some
Yeah, whatever.
raw
I
stuff to
figure
work
you
with.
figured out.
Yeah, it'll give me some raw stuff to work with. One of the things I always want to make sure I bring up to people is, you know, there's pretty much like two major demographic buckets of Carters. Your 6 to 18 year olds, and then your, for the most part, I'd say 25 and up,
Yeah, I was going to
right?
say exactly the same number, like 25, because in between that's like, I'm going to college, I'm eating ramen noodles, and I'm drinking a
Right.
lot.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Exactly.
I don't know if Americans drink a lot in college, but Irish people
Yes, we do.
apparently do. I don't
Yes,
really know.
yes, we
You
do.
do?
Yeah.
That's a terrible thing. Don't
Well,
do that.
the thing is that I always find it to be a little frustrating for the 25 and up contingent because for most people, they're starting their careers, they're starting their adulthood, they're starting their lives, so they're not going to have expendable cash to go and buy a race car. And karting is a way for them to participate that I find to be not fair to disregard them because they're quote unquote too old, right? Because we've been stuck in this mindset of, you start karting when you're 6 and you race to you're 25 and then you're, Lewis Hamilton and you go win the F1 World Championship and anything else is a waste. And
Right.
I feel like that view is a waste because there are so many people who have done accomplished amazing things that have nowhere near the F1 ladder experience, and that doesn't matter at all. And it kind of comes back to what we talked about, shut up and drive your go-kart, right? Like at the end of the day, shut up and drive your go-kart. Like just go have fun, get in your go-kart. I don't care if you're winning every race. I don't care if you're 20th. Like with all due respect, we are racing for plastic trophies at the end of the day,
Right.
right? Like it's not an F1 team. Like go have fun. And we've all had that experience of, the guys who take karting way too seriously and want to be the next Ganassi
Right.
and I'm kicking you off my karting team because you're not helping me win. Like just shut up and drive your go. Yeah, that's cool and like have fun with that, but just shut up and drive your go-kart.
I was gonna say I thought it was really funny when we were at PRI, and I just kind of had the little pin drop where it's like, you know, carts aren't for kids, carts are for adults.
Yeah.
Formula cars are for kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Statistically, and I mean, that's tongue in cheek. I
Yeah.
mean, Formula cars vary greatly in performance, vary greatly in skills required to drive. It's not,
Hmm.
it's not meant to be a slight. It's just a little bit ironic that, we would think that carts or slash go karts are for kids,
Right.
but really, if you look at the numerical data, it's kind of Formula cars,
Well, and I was really thinking about like the affordable viability. I mean, it's like, who are the people who buy Formula cars? Wealthy, experienced people who put children in them, or younger people in them. I won't say children, or parents who want to put their children in them. But, the average 25 to, you know, the average person even, just I don't even need to put an age on it. The average person in them couldn't afford to buy a Formula car. It just is not in their flexible budget. No way. No way. Not
Right.
at all. But a cart they could. Shifter they could.
Yeah.
2.6 they could. And I find that to just be. It was like when we were at, we were like you said, we were at PRI, and somebody had said, so when are you going to get out of go karts and get into real cars? And I kind of looked at them, and my first comment was like, money, please. And then my
Yeah.
my second thought was
Insert
like,
coin to operate.
right, exactly, right. And then my second thought was, wait a minute, this cart does 2.5 G in the corner. Your car barely does 1.1. So you want me to pay more money to go slower, effectively?
And race less
That is somewhat
people and have less people to race and need a bigger garage to store it in and
and
yada
more
yada
expensive when
yada
it
yada.
breaks. Like that seems less fun for me, really. To
Yeah.
especially when the trained response is to look at me and say, "Oh, he's too old to be a race car driver." Then like why do you care? Just let me go have fun. You know?
Right.
Like
Well,
and
they
that's
want
not
your money.
and that's not to say that race car driving isn't fun. Like you say, it's kind of tongue in cheek. You could listen back on that and you could think like, oh, Davin hates race car drivers because he thinks they're a bunch of rich slow people, and that's not the case at all. But it's just that karting is its own motorsport, just like car racing is its own motorsport. It's not that karting is inferior to car racing. And I just don't like it when people think that karting is inferior to car racing because those people don't understand karting.
Yeah.
Like like
Or
feet.
they don't understand racing or something. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. I mean, I don't understand that logic at all. And
Nope.
this is coming from two people that have quite a bit of experience in car racing and kart racing. I mean, you
Hmm.
didn't start in karts.
No, I
You
started
were
in
in
cars.
autocross and all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah, I started with autocross, and then I started. Well, actually, I probably started with just messing around with cars, and then I went to autocross, and I autocrossed for I almost want to say 8 or 9 years, and then I got into rental carts, and then I got into competition carts. And with my thing when I was autocrossing is I had a lot of fun, and I made a really great friends, and I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. But I wasn't getting the seat time that I wanted. And all of a sudden, I found this awesome sport where I could effectively run every day if the track was open. And, I got to go wheel to wheel with people. And if I tore a corner off, it was way cheaper and
Yeah.
et cetera, that I was like, why, like, this is like the best kept secret in motorsports. Like, I don't understand why more people don't do it. And then I have peers who club race cars, and this is not a slide on them. It's just I've always been a little bit surprised about this. Is that they car race cars and they maybe only do 3 races a year or 4 races a year, and they spend just as much as I did, and I did 20 races.
Right.
And I've always volunteered to say like, hey, why don't you grab a 206 and get a little bit extra seat time between BMW races, and you will be a better driver when you get back in your BMW. And they go, oh no, karts are for kids, and I'm like, says who? Right?
Formula cars are for kids.
Right. Well, I mean,
That's very expensive. So just
you
get a
know,
cart. It's
we
kind of
get
like a
we
Formula car, but
we get our memes stolen all the time, but like I thought it was really funny. I thought it was really funny when that got
4 minutes
copied.
and 70 seconds. That's
No,
all.
really. I mean, I could set a stopwatch to it. I was just like, oh look, there's oh, ah, damn it, it's gone now. Right? So, but the point was, the point was very valid. Like, we on the one hand you could say, oh, like you say, they're being tongue in cheek. They can't afford to do it, so they're just, demeaning it. But in reality, logistically, if you think about it, where does that cash flow come from? Right?
Right.
I mean, it comes from, wealthy benefactors or rich parents.
Right.
And even certain classes are age specific. You go to Formula
Right.
Renault 1.6, you go to Formula 4, even though they don't say it in their rules, they will, right? Like I mean, if you're 40 years old and racing a Formula 4 as a series, a lot of people out of habit will go, "Why? It's at the bottom of the ladder," which is equally
Right.
stupid because I would still argue that those 40-year-old people racing Formula 4 should
Right.
be congratulated, should be promoted, should be, praised. Be like, dude, you're running a race car. You're awesome.
Right.
Not you're too old and it's too late. Like, why do that to people, right?
I mean, I can't speak as much for the US, but like back home in Ireland, like Formula Car is a huge mix. And I would say, especially in
Hmm.
the older, the Formula 4 1600 classes and Formula V, mostly older guys, 30s and 40s that can then
Yep.
afford to go racing again.
Yep.
And the quickest guy, a guy called Brian
Yep.
Hardy, who has, I mean, he's consistently won stuff in V's for the last decade or more. And he's, I don't know, he's older than I am. He's in his 40s, I'd say at least. So, yeah, and so it's that kind of attitude that we want to bring back to karting is like, just do it because it's fun and that's it. That's
Yeah.
good
Have
enough
fun.
and start there and then
Yeah.
hang out with your friends. And if you're old enough and you're into it, at the end of the day, have some beers with your friends, go back to the track next day. Don't drink too much because you're
Right.
hungover and that's bad.
And it's funny. I think the other thing I want to really touch about, is that, karting as a sport is a little fragmented. And, insert topic here, and I can show you, 90 different divisions, right? But we have a couple. I don't even want to call them competitors. They're just other karting sites that I've talked with some people back and forth, and they'll say, "Oh, you can't talk about karting because we talk about karting," and I just find that to be kind of hilarious. Since I'm like, it's not that we're trying to promote the sport in maybe a grassroots direction, and you're maybe trying to promote the sport in a professional direction, and both are valid. So let's be friends. I'm not trying to close down your site. I'm not trying to, be better than so and so. I'm just trying to give another option to people who maybe don't feel like they fit
Yeah,
in on the surface.
and that's just it. I mean, I started CartPulse to cover, not to cover because that implies that we're going to create a whole load of content in terms of race coverage, but something to accommodate that, 90% of kart racers across the nation that are just interested in just racing karts every weekend and having a good time. And because it's fun. I mean, when I looked at and talk with all of my friends in kart racing that I race with on a regular basis, they didn't care a whole lot about, the bigger websites, like EKN and Kart 360, for the super nuts, they check them out. But beyond that, they're like, yeah, that's it. That's all. There's nothing else really. And so I wanted to build something else for our kind of guys. And that's not to exclude the likes of the super nuts at all. But, that's part of the mix, a small part. And then we talk about all these other things, like Trailers Tuesdays and just people just, giving it socks,
Just keep karting fun. Like that's why we use the hashtag keep karting fun all the time because we want it to be fun. And let me just spin on the EKN kind of point because I know it's going to come up in
yeah,
conversation a number of times. They do a fantastic job at covering the top level of karting, like the high, like where the most of the budget is spent, right? Like the SCUSA and the max speed level of karting, and they do a really good job at that. And so if you're interested in covering and learning about those sort of races and what's going on there, I highly recommend going there because they are on top of it. But like you say, 90% of karters don't aren't there or involved, or by the time they read about it, the race is over, and I can't
Right.
do anything with that information. And so, if I'm a new carter trying to, understand what to do in my sport, or I'm an experienced carter and I just want to understand why I don't understand chassis setup, it's hard to go there and find
Right.
information because they're just giving me news. And so, the Cart Pulse, we really tried to focus on like the practical application of karting and more information. And we're still evolving and trying to understand our place in the universe.
Yeah, we don't know what the hell we're doing, but I'm not, but there's like everybody else, but we're at least being honest and saying, well, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm figuring it out. Let's figure it out together and have a good time doing it.
Right, exactly. I put some content here and we'll clean it up and we'll redesign it. I mean, like we're going through a redesign with our website right now
Right.
because, we kind of our plan had always been ship it, iterate later,
Right.
right? And that's worked for the whole so far. And because, we're only really two or three people, we have to prioritize where we put our attention.
Right.
So, that's why, for example, we came up with the idea of the forums because the forums was a place that the community could get more involved in curated information rather than Facebook.
Right.
And then that's why we decided to start working on the podcast because this was an easy way for us to explain what the hell we were doing
Right.
without having to write long articles that sometimes people just don't want to read. Like,
Right. That and I don't write articles, and if I post it on Facebook, like, maybe 1,000 people will see it unless I throw a bunch of cash at it, and you know, now if we attach it to one of your memes, maybe that will go well. Talking about EKN, I mean, those guys work their asses off. That's something
oh,
I could
they work
not
really
do it.
hard.
I could
Hmm.
not do that. I've got two kids and a wife that already hates me because I traveled 3 weeks out of a month for work. Um, There's just no way. And I've always had, like, before they had the, how should we call it, the forums change years ago.
Hmm.
I would be one of the people that would kind of step in and say, these guys are super busy. You can't keep asking other people to do something. I think that's why I started CarPulse too, was that there's just this trend of people coming up with air quotes ideas that are really just stuff for other people to do. And I'm like, no, bullshit. That's bullshit.
Right. Yeah.
This is a community and this is a sport, and for most of us, it's a hobby, but it's something that we love. And if you wanna see a change, then you need to make that change. Cheeseball statement, but it's true. And that's how I started out. It's like, we don't have a decent cart directory of tracks. We don't have an open platform for like discovery of different facets of kart racing, like a single place to do it. And so I started to build that. We're not there yet, but I stopped saying, wouldn't it be great if, and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to commit to it. I'm going to make a change.
Hmm.
Looking at the man in the mirror, Michael Jackson, bad 1988, whatever you want to call it, Shimon.
No, you brought up the part about being proactive and just getting shit done. And I may bleep that out, but my
No, don't bleep it out.
a
It's
lot of
linked with
things.
kart racers. We don't
Right.
bleep out shit, okay? Maybe we'll bleep out the f bombs, okay? See how many
I'll
takes we
figure
can
out what we
find.
bleep. I might just throw random bleeps in there, just randomly bleep.
I've done
Right.
that.
You run into a lot of people who, whether they're trying to race, whether they're trying to run the club, whether they're trying to, it doesn't matter. Whether they're trying to do anything in life, and they put the problem on somebody else. They say it's the club's fault or it's not my fault. And we really had this position with Cart Pulse of like, no, get your hands in there, get dirty, get stuff done. It's the little things that are helpful. Like the write an article to help,
Yeah, it
right?
doesn't have to
Like,
be big and freaking fancy. The only thing about it is, like, I think the biggest thing for people is that you have to be willing to be wrong, and that's okay. Like, you try something and you're wrong. So what? You try again. The irony that strikes me is that it's like just like tuning a cart, right? Throw
yep,
in some
yep.
caster, you reckon it'll work. Oh, no, that didn't work. And it's just and that's what's really interesting about it. Is that if we approached kart racing the way some of us approach, if we approach growing kart racing and getting more people involved in it and having a better time in it in the same way that we should approach kart race tuning,
Mhm.
in the way that we should approach kart chassis tuning, then we would be much better off. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but either way, there's nothing lost by taking that risk, and you learn something by it.
So that was our first Drinks with Karters episode. We've got a couple other people that we have lined up for interviews coming up, but we figured we'd get in the firing line ourselves first. Let us know what you think on forums.kartpulse.com or on our KartPulse Facebook page. Other topics we could put in, other drinks we should have, or if you want to be a guest, let us know and we'll hit you up in the comments. Talk to you later.